What if a single population in the heart of Europe held a genetic key to the continent's deep past? How did the rugged mountains and turbulent history of the Balkans forge a DNA profile so distinct it stands apart from its neighbors? Journey with us as we unravel the secrets hidden within the Albanian gene pool, exploring a story of survival, isolation, and incredible resilience written in the very code of life itself. The story of the Albanian people's unique genetic makeup begins not with the rise of civilizations or the clash of empires, but in the deep recesses of Paleolithic Europe, a time when hunter-gatherer societies roamed a continent largely covered in ice. The Balkan Peninsula, where modern-day Albania is situated, served as a crucial refugium during the last glacial maximum, a period approximately 26,500 to 19,000 years ago when vast ice sheets rendered much of northern and central Europe uninhabitable. This corner of southeastern Europe, with its more temperate climate and diverse topography, became a sanctuary for human populations, as well as for a wide array of flora and fauna. It was within this geographic haven that some of the earliest chapters of European genetic history were written, chapters that would have a lasting impact on the future inhabitants of the region, including the ancestors of the Albanians. The individuals who sought refuge in the Balkans were the descendants of the first anatomically modern humans to arrive in Europe, who had migrated out of Africa tens of thousands of years earlier. Over millennia, these early Europeans adapted to their new environments, developing sophisticated tool-making techniques and complex social structures to survive in a challenging and often changing world. The genetic signatures of these Paleolithic hunter-gatherers are the foundational layer of the European gene pool, and in the Balkans, this ancient heritage appears to be particularly well preserved. The relative isolation of the Balkan Peninsula, with its rugged mountain ranges and intricate coastlines, may have facilitated the development of distinct genetic lineages among the hunter-gatherer groups who called it home. As the ice sheets began to retreat around 19,000 years ago, these populations started to expand, recolonizing vast swathes of the continent. This post-glacial expansion from the Balkan refugium, as well as from other southern European refugia like Iberia and the Italian peninsula, played a pivotal role in shaping the genetic landscape of modern Europe. However, a significant portion of these ancient populations remained in the Balkans, their genetic legacy enduring through the subsequent millennia. The study of ancient DNA extracted from archaeological remains across Europe has provided tantalizing glimpses into the genetic makeup of these Paleolithic peoples. While the direct genetic lineage to modern Albanians from this period is a complex and still emerging field of study, the high levels of certain ancient European haplogroups in the current Albanian population suggest a deep connection to these original inhabitants. The mountainous terrain of Albania, in particular, may have acted as a genetic museum, preserving ancient lineages that were largely replaced in other parts of Europe by successive waves of migration. The Dinaric Alps, which run through the Western Balkans, have long been a formidable barrier, limiting large-scale population movements and fostering a degree of genetic isolation. This isolation would become a recurring theme in Albanian history, shaping not only the people's genetic makeup, but also their culture and language. The very survival of the Albanian language, a unique branch of the Indo-European family with no close living relatives, is a testament to this long history of relative seclusion. In the context of the broader European genetic story, the Albanian people represent a fascinating case study of continuity in the face of millennia of demographic upheaval. While virtually all European populations are a composite of various ancestral groups, the Albanian genetic profile appears to have a stronger and more direct link to the ancient peoples of the Balkans than many of their neighbors. This is not to say that Albanians have been completely isolated from the outside world. Indeed, their history is one of constant interaction with other cultures and peoples. However, the degree to which they have retained their ancient genetic heritage is remarkable, making them a key population for understanding the deep history of Europe. The legacy of the Paleolithic hunter-gatherers of the Balkans is not just a matter of abstract genetic markers. It is a story of resilience, adaptation, and survival in the face of profound environmental change. It is a story that is etched into the very DNA of the Albanian people, a silent testament to the long and often arduous journey of their ancestors. The advent of the Neolithic Revolution, beginning in the Near East around 12,000 years ago, marked a profound turning point in human history, one that would irrevocably alter the genetic landscape of Europe. This transformative period witnessed the development of agriculture, the domestication of animals, and the establishment of settled communities, innovations that gradually spread across the continent, carried by migrating farmers from Anatolia. The arrival of these Neolithic farmers in Europe precipitated a major demographic shift, as they interacted with and, in many cases, replaced the indigenous Mesolithic hunter-gatherer populations. The Balkan Peninsula was one of the first regions in Europe to experience the impact of this agricultural wave, and its encounter with the newcomers from the East would play a crucial role in shaping the future genetic makeup of its inhabitants, including the ancestors of the Albanians. The fertile river valleys and coastal plains of the Balkans provided an ideal environment for the establishment of early farming communities. Archaeological evidence from sites across the region reveals the presence of tells, or settlement mounds, which are characteristic of Neolithic cultures in the Near East and southeastern Europe. These early farmers brought with them new technologies, such as pottery and polished stone tools, as well as domesticated plants like wheat and barley, and animals like sheep, goats, and cattle. The transition from a hunter-gatherer lifestyle to one based on agriculture had a profound impact on society, leading to population growth, the development of more complex social structures, and the emergence of new belief systems. From a genetic perspective, the arrival of Neolithic farmers in the Balkans introduced a new ancestral component to the existing Mesolithic gene pool. Studies of ancient DNA from Neolithic sites across Europe have consistently shown a significant genetic contribution from Anatolian farmers. This Anatolian ancestry is a key component of the genetic makeup of virtually all modern Europeans, but its proportion varies across the continent. In the Balkans, the interaction between the incoming farmers and the indigenous hunter-gatherers was a complex process that likely varied from region to region. In some areas, there may have been a significant degree of admixture, with the two groups intermarrying and exchanging cultural practices. In other areas, particularly in more remote and mountainous regions, the indigenous hunter-gatherer populations may have been able to maintain their genetic and cultural identity for a longer period. The rugged terrain of what is now Albania may have played a significant role in this dynamic. While the coastal lowlands were likely settled by Neolithic farmers, the mountainous interior may have provided a refuge for Mesolithic populations, allowing them to preserve their ancient genetic lineages. This could help to explain the high levels of pre-Neolithic European ancestry observed in the modern Albanian population. The Albanian gene pool, therefore, can be seen as a mosaic, a blend of the ancient hunter-gatherer heritage of the Paleolithic and Mesolithic periods, and the new genetic material introduced by the Neolithic farmers from Anatolia. The relative proportions of these two ancestral components in the Albanian population are a subject of ongoing research. but it is clear that both have played a significant role in shaping the unique genetic profile of the Albanian people. The legacy of the Neolithic revolution in the Balkans is not simply a story of population replacement. It is a story of interaction, adaptation, and the creation of new and diverse cultural and genetic landscapes. The arrival of agriculture laid the groundwork for the development of the complex societies that would emerge in the region during the Bronze and Iron Ages, societies that would eventually give rise to the Illyrians, the putative ancestors of the Albanians. The genetic echoes of this transformative period are still audible today, a testament to the enduring impact of the Neolithic revolution on the peoples of the Balkans and beyond. The unique blend of ancient hunter-gatherer and Neolithic farmer ancestry in the Albanian population is a key element of their distinct genetic identity, a reflection of the complex and multifaceted history of the region. The Bronze Age, a period of dramatic technological and social change, witnessed a series of large-scale migrations that would once again reshape the genetic and linguistic map of Europe. Among the most significant of these were the migrations of peoples speaking Proto-Indo-European languages, who are thought to have originated in the Pontic-Caspian steppe, a vast expanse of grassland stretching from the northern shores of the Black Sea to the Caspian Sea. These pastoralist groups, with their mastery of horse riding and chariot warfare, expanded across much of Eurasia, spreading their languages and their genes. The arrival of these Indo-European speakers in the Balkans during the Bronze Age is a pivotal chapter in the ethnogenesis of many of the region's ancient peoples, including the Illyrians, who are widely considered to be the ancestors of the Albanians. The precise nature of the Indo-European migrations into the Balkans is a subject of ongoing debate among archaeologists, linguists, and geneticists. Some scholars envision a scenario of large-scale, violent invasions, while others propose a more gradual process of cultural diffusion and elite dominance. Regardless of the exact mechanisms, it is clear that the arrival of these newcomers had a profound impact on the existing Neolithic populations of the Balkans. Genetically, the Indo-European migrations introduced a new ancestral component to the Balkan gene pool, one that is associated with the peoples of the Pontic-Caspian steppe. This steppe ancestry is now found in varying proportions in virtually all European populations, but it is particularly prevalent in Northern and Eastern Europe. In the Balkans, the influx of steppe ancestry appears to have been less pronounced than in other parts of the continent, suggesting a more complex pattern of interaction between the newcomers and the indigenous populations. The Illyrians, a diverse group of tribes who inhabited the Western Balkans during the Iron Age and Classical Antiquity, are believed to have emerged from this fusion of pre-existing Neolithic and Bronze Age populations with the newly arrived Indo-European speakers. The Albanian language, with its unique vocabulary and grammatical structure, is considered to be a descendant of the ancient Illyrian language, providing a strong linguistic link between modern Albanians and their Illyrian ancestors. From a genetic perspective, the connection between Albanians and Illyrians is supported by the fact that the Albanian gene pool is characterized by a high frequency of haplogroups that are thought to have been prevalent among the Illyrians. The mountainous terrain of Albania likely played a crucial role in preserving the genetic and linguistic legacy of the Illyrians. While other parts of the Balkans were more exposed to subsequent waves of migration and assimilation, the remote and inaccessible nature of the Albanian highlands allowed the Illyrian-speaking populations to maintain their distinct identity. This is not to say that the Illyrians were a homogeneous group. Indeed, ancient sources describe a multitude of Illyrian tribes, each with its own territory and cultural traditions. This tribal diversity was likely reflected in the genetic landscape of the region, with different Illyrian groups exhibiting varying degrees of admixture with their neighbors. The study of ancient DNA from Illyrian burial sites is beginning to shed new light on the genetic makeup of these enigmatic people, and the initial findings seem to confirm a significant degree of genetic continuity between the ancient Illyrians and modern Albanians. The legacy of the Indo-European migrations and the Illyrian ancestry of the Albanian people is a testament to the complex interplay of migration, admixture, and isolation in shaping the genetic and cultural identity of a population. The Albanian gene pool is a rich tapestry woven from the threads of ancient Balkan hunter-gatherers, Neolithic farmers from Anatolia, and Bronze Age pastoralists from the Pontic-Caspian steppe. It is this unique blend of ancestral components, combined with a long history of relative isolation, that makes the Albanian DNA so unique and so fascinating to study. The story of the Illyrians is not just a story of the past. It is a story that continues to resonate in the present, a story that is carried in the genes and in the language of the Albanian people. The arrival of the Romans in the Balkans in the 2nd century BCE marked the beginning of a new era for the Illyrian tribes, an era of conquest, integration, and profound cultural change. The Roman Empire, at its zenith, was a vast and cosmopolitan entity, a melting pot of peoples and cultures from across Europe, North Africa, and the Middle East. The integration of Illyria into this sprawling empire might have been expected to lead to a significant degree of genetic admixture, as Roman soldiers, administrators, and colonists from other parts of the empire settled in the region. However, the genetic evidence suggests that the Roman and subsequent Byzantine periods had a relatively limited impact on the core genetic makeup of the Albanian people's ancestors. While the coastal cities and major trade routes of Illyria undoubtedly experienced a degree of demographic change, the mountainous interior of the country remained largely untouched by large-scale Roman settlement. The rugged terrain that had protected the Illyrians from previous waves of migration once again served as a formidable barrier, preserving the genetic and cultural distinctiveness of the indigenous population. Roman rule in Illyria was primarily focused on an urban model of administration and control. The Romans established a network of cities, roads, and fortifications, which served as centers of Roman culture and power. However, the vast majority of the Illyrian population continued to live in rural, tribal communities, their lives largely governed by traditional customs and social structures. This urban-rural divide likely created a degree of social and genetic separation between the Romanized urban elites and the more traditional Illyrian populations of the countryside. Furthermore, the Roman presence in Illyria was primarily military and administrative in nature. While there were some Roman colonists who settled in the region, their numbers were likely not large enough to have a significant and lasting impact on the overall gene pool. The Roman army, which was stationed in Illyria to defend the empire's northern frontier, was a multi-ethnic force, composed of soldiers from across the empire. While some of these soldiers may have had families with local women, their genetic contribution to the population as a whole appears to have been modest. The subsequent division of the Roman Empire in the 4th century CE and the establishment of the Byzantine Empire in the east did little to alter this dynamic. Illyria became part of the Eastern Roman, or Byzantine, Empire, and its strategic importance as a buffer zone against barbarian incursions from the north increased. The Byzantine administration largely followed the Roman model, with a focus on controlling the cities and major communication routes. The mountainous interior of what is now Albania remained a remote and largely autonomous region, its inhabitants continuing to preserve their Illyrian language and traditions. The limited genetic impact of the Roman and Byzantine eras on the Albanian gene pool is a testament to the resilience of the indigenous Illyrian population. Despite centuries of foreign rule, they were able to maintain their distinct genetic and cultural identity, a feat that was likely aided by the geographic isolation of their homeland. This is not to say that there was no interaction or admixture between the Illyrians and the Romans or Byzantines. Indeed, there was undoubtedly a degree of cultural and genetic exchange. However, this exchange appears to have been limited in scope, and it did not fundamentally alter the core genetic makeup of the population. The Albanian gene pool, therefore, largely retained its pre-Roman Illyrian character, a character that had been forged over millennia of interaction between ancient Balkan hunter-gatherers, Neolithic farmers, and Indo-European migrants. The Roman and Byzantine periods, while transformative in many ways, were ultimately just another chapter in the long and complex history of the Albanian people. A chapter that added new layers of cultural influence but did not erase the deep genetic foundations that had been laid in the preceding millennia. The early medieval period was a time of tremendous upheaval in the Balkans, marked by the decline of the Byzantine Empire's power in the region and the arrival of large numbers of Slavic-speaking tribes from the north. Beginning in the 6th century CE, these Slavic groups began to settle in the Balkans in large numbers, fundamentally altering the ethnic and linguistic map of the peninsula. The arrival of the Slavs had a profound and lasting impact on the region, leading to the assimilation of many of the pre-existing Paleo-Balkan populations and the formation of the modern South Slavic nations. However, in the remote and mountainous regions of what is now Albania, a remnant of the pre-Slavic population was able to survive, preserving their distinct language and culture. This Albanian refugium, in the highlands of northern Albania and neighboring areas, became a crucial stronghold for the survival of the Albanian people and their unique genetic heritage. The Slavic migrations into the Balkans were not a single, coordinated event, but rather a series of complex and often chaotic movements of different tribal groups over a period of several centuries. These groups were drawn to the Balkans by the relative weakness of the Byzantine Empire, which was struggling to defend its vast frontiers. The Slavs were primarily agriculturalists, and they were attracted to the fertile lands of the Balkan river valleys. As they settled in these areas, they came into contact with the existing Romano-Illyrian and Thraco-Roman populations. In many parts of the Balkans, the pre-Slavic populations were either assimilated by the more numerous Slavic newcomers or were pushed into more marginal mountainous areas. The rugged and inaccessible terrain of the Albanian highlands provided a natural fortress for the ancestors of the Albanians, allowing them to resist Slavic encroachment and maintain their distinct identity. This is not to say that there was no interaction between the Albanians and the Slavs. Indeed, there was undoubtedly a degree of cultural and linguistic exchange, as evidenced by the presence of Slavic loanwords in the Albanian language. However, the core of the Albanian language and culture remained intact, a testament to the resilience of the people who inhabited this mountainous redoubt. From a genetic perspective, the Slavic migrations introduced a new ancestral component to the Balkan gene pool, one that is associated with the Slavic-speaking peoples of Eastern Europe. This Slavic genetic signature is now found in varying proportions in all of the South Slavic nations. In the Albanian population, however, the Slavic genetic contribution is significantly lower than in their Slavic-speaking neighbors. This provides strong genetic evidence for the Albanian refugium hypothesis, suggesting that the ancestors of the Albanians were able to largely avoid the demographic and genetic changes that swept through much of the rest of the Balkans during the early medieval period. The preservation of the Albanian language, a unique branch of the Indo-European family, is perhaps the most compelling evidence for the survival of a pre-Slavic population in the Albanian highlands. While most of the other Paleo-Balkan languages died out as a result of Romanization and subsequent Slavicization, the Albanian language managed to endure, a living link to the ancient peoples of the Balkans. The story of the Albanian refugium during the Slavic migrations is a story of survival against the odds. It is a story of a people who, in the face of overwhelming demographic pressure, were able to hold on to their language, their culture, and their unique genetic heritage. The legacy of this period is still visible today, in the distinct genetic and linguistic profile of the Albanian people, a profile that sets them apart from their neighbors and makes them a key population for understanding the complex and often turbulent history of the Balkans. The arrival of the Ottoman Turks in the Balkans in the late 14th century ushered in a new and profoundly transformative era for the region. The Ottoman Empire, a vast and powerful Islamic state, would rule over the Balkans for nearly 5 centuries, leaving an indelible mark on the culture, religion, and social fabric of its diverse peoples. For the Albanians, the Ottoman period was a time of both conflict and accommodation, a period that would have a significant, albeit complex, impact on their genetic and cultural identity. While the Ottoman conquest brought new peoples and new influences to the Balkans, it also, paradoxically, contributed to the continued genetic and cultural isolation of the Albanian people, particularly in the mountainous interior of the country. The initial Ottoman expansion into the Balkans was met with fierce resistance from the local Christian populations, and the Albanians, under the leadership of their national hero, George Kastrioti Skanderbeg, mounted a particularly tenacious and long-lasting rebellion in the mid-15th century. This period of resistance, while ultimately unsuccessful, forged a strong sense of Albanian identity and reinforced their determination to preserve their culture and traditions in the face of foreign domination. After the final Ottoman conquest of Albania in the late 15th century, a significant portion of the Albanian population converted to Islam. This process of Islamization was complex and multifaceted, driven by a variety of factors, including the desire to avoid the jizya, or poll tax, levied on non-Muslims, and the opportunities for social and political advancement within the Ottoman system. The conversion to Islam created a religious divide within the Albanian population, with some Albanians remaining Christian, both Catholic and Orthodox, while others embraced the new faith. This religious diversity, however, did not necessarily lead to a significant degree of genetic admixture with the Ottoman Turks or other Muslim populations of the empire. The Ottoman administrative system, known as the millet system, allowed for a considerable degree of autonomy for the different religious communities within the empire. This system, while designed to facilitate Ottoman rule, also had the unintended consequence of reinforcing religious and ethnic boundaries. The different religious communities largely lived in separate quarters, attended their own schools and places of worship, and were subject to their own religious laws. This social segregation limited the opportunities for intermarriage between Muslims and Christians, and it helped to preserve the distinct genetic profiles of the different ethnic and religious groups in the Balkans. In the case of the Albanians, the mountainous terrain of their homeland once again played a crucial role in maintaining their genetic and cultural isolation. The Ottoman administration was often weak or non-existent in the remote and inaccessible highlands of northern Albania, where the traditional tribal system, with its strong emphasis on kinship and customary law, continued to hold sway. These highland tribes, who were predominantly either Catholic or had converted to Islam while retaining many of their pre-Islamic traditions, had limited contact with the Ottoman authorities and with other ethnic groups. This isolation fostered a high degree of endogamy, or marriage within the community, which helped to preserve the unique genetic heritage of the Albanian Highlanders. The Ottoman period, therefore, was a time of both continuity and change for the Albanian people. While the conversion to Islam and the integration into the Ottoman Empire brought new cultural influences and created new social divisions, it did not fundamentally alter the core genetic makeup of the population. The combination of the millet system and the geographic isolation of the Albanian highlands created a situation in which the Albanians were able to maintain a high degree of genetic and cultural continuity. The legacy of the Ottoman period is still visible today in the religious diversity of the Albanian people and in the strong sense of clan and regional identity that persists in many parts of the country. From a genetic perspective, the Ottoman era can be seen as a period of consolidation, a period in which the unique genetic profile of the Albanian people, forged over millennia of history, was largely preserved. The story of the Albanian people is not confined to the borders of modern-day Albania and its immediate neighbors. Over the centuries, various groups of Albanians have migrated to other parts of Europe, establishing new communities and preserving their language and traditions in foreign lands. Two of the most significant of these diaspora communities are the Arborish of southern Italy and the Arvanites of Greece. The study of the genetics of these two groups provides a fascinating window into the history of Albanian migrations and offers further insights into the unique genetic makeup of the Albanian people. The Arborish are the descendants of Albanians who fled their homeland in several waves between the 15th and 18th centuries to escape the Ottoman conquest. They settled in scattered villages across southern Italy and Sicily, where they have managed to preserve their distinct language, Arborish, which is a medieval variant of the Tosk dialect of Albanian. The Arvanites are the descendants of Albanians who migrated to Greece in the late Middle Ages, primarily between the 13th and 16th centuries. They played a significant role in the history of Greece, participating in the Greek War of Independence and contributing to the formation of the modern Greek state. Like the Arborish, the Arvanites have also managed to preserve their own dialect of Albanian, known as Arvanitica. The migrations of the Arborish and the Arvanites were not isolated events, but rather part of a broader pattern of population movement in the Balkans during the turbulent late medieval and early modern periods. The Ottoman conquest, with its attendant warfare and social disruption, created a climate of instability that prompted many people to seek refuge in other lands. The Republic of Venice, which had a long history of involvement in the Balkans, played a key role in facilitating the migration of Albanians to southern Italy, where they were settled in depopulated areas and were often employed as soldiers. From a genetic perspective, the Arborish and the Arvanites represent genetic snapshots of the Albanian population at the time of their migration. Because they have largely lived in relative isolation from their new host populations, they have preserved a significant portion of the genetic diversity of their Albanian ancestors. Genetic studies of the Arborish and the Arvanites have revealed a close genetic relationship to modern Albanians, particularly to those from the southern part of the country, which is consistent with the historical accounts of their origins. These studies have also shown that the Arborish and the Arvanites have experienced a degree of genetic drift and founder effect, which is to be expected in small, isolated populations. However, their overall genetic profile is clearly of Balkan origin, and it provides strong evidence for the continuity of the Albanian gene pool over the past several centuries. The study of the Arborish and the Arvanites is not only important for understanding the history of Albanian migrations, but it also has broader implications for the study of European population genetics. These diaspora communities provide a valuable resource for researchers who are interested in tracing the genetic legacy of past population movements and in understanding the processes of genetic adaptation and change in new environments. The story of the Arborish and the Arvanites is a testament to the resilience and adaptability of the Albanian people. It is a story of a people who, in the face of adversity, were able to create new homes for themselves in foreign lands, while at the same time preserving their unique language, culture, and genetic heritage. The genetic echoes of these past migrations are still audible today, a reminder of the long and often complex journey of the Albanian people. The Albanian people, while sharing a common language and a strong sense of national identity, are traditionally divided into two major cultural and linguistic subgroups: the Gegs in the north and the Tosks in the south. The Shkumbin River, which flows through central Albania, is generally considered to be the dividing line between these two groups. The Geg and Tosk dialects of the Albanian language are distinct, though mutually intelligible, and there are also significant cultural differences between the two groups, particularly in terms of social organization, traditional dress, and folklore. This long-standing cultural and linguistic division is also reflected in the genetic landscape of Albania, with studies revealing subtle but significant genetic differences between the Geg and Tosk populations. The origins of the Geg-Tosk divide are not entirely clear, but it is likely to have deep historical roots. Some scholars have suggested that the division may reflect the settlement patterns of different Illyrian tribes in antiquity. Others have pointed to the influence of the different historical trajectories of northern and southern Albania. The north, with its rugged mountainous terrain and strong tribal traditions, was more isolated and less exposed to outside influences than the south, which had closer ties to the classical Greek and Roman worlds. The Shkumbin River, which for a time formed the boundary between the Latin-influenced north and the Greek-influenced south of the Roman Empire, the Gyrosek line, may have played a role in reinforcing this pre-existing cultural and linguistic divide. Genetic studies that have compared the Y chromosome and mitochondrial DNA of Geg and Tosk populations have identified distinct patterns of genetic variation. These studies have shown that while both groups share a common Balkan genetic ancestry, there are differences in the frequencies of certain haplogroups. For example, some Y chromosome haplogroups that are common in the Balkans and are thought to be associated with the ancient Illyrians are found at different frequencies in Geg and Tosk populations. Similarly, there are differences in the distribution of mitochondrial DNA haplogroups, which trace the maternal line of descent. These genetic differences, while not large, are statistically significant, and they provide further evidence for a long history of relative genetic isolation between the two groups. The mountainous terrain of Albania has undoubtedly played a role in maintaining the genetic distinctiveness of the Gegs and Tosks. The rugged landscape has limited population movement and has fostered a high degree of endogamy within local communities. This has led to the development of a patchwork genetic landscape in Albania, with significant genetic variation observed not only between the north and the south, but also between different valleys and highland regions. The study of the genetic differences between the Gegs and Tosks is not just an academic exercise. It has important implications for understanding the demographic history of the Albanian people and for reconstructing the complex patterns of migration and settlement that have shaped the genetic landscape of the Balkans. The Geg-Tosk divide is a living testament to the long and multifaceted history of the Albanian people, a history that has been shaped by the interplay of geography, culture, and genetics. The distinct genetic signatures of the Gegs and Tosks are a reminder that the Albanian people, while united by a common language and identity, are also a people of great diversity, a diversity that is etched into their very DNA. The story of the Gegs and the Tosks is a story of two branches of the same tree, each with its own unique history and its own distinct genetic legacy, but both firmly rooted in the ancient soil of the Balkans. The unique genetic profile of the Albanian people cannot be fully understood without considering the profound influence of their traditional social structure and marriage patterns. For centuries, Albanian society, particularly in the mountainous regions of the north, was organized around a complex system of clans and tribes. This tribal system, with its strong emphasis on kinship, honor, and customary law, the canon, played a crucial role in shaping the genetic landscape of the country, fostering a high degree of endogamy and preserving ancient genetic lineages. The Albanian tribal system was based on the principle of patrilineal descent, with individuals tracing their ancestry back to a common male ancestor. Each tribe was composed of a number of clans, which were further subdivided into extended families. This social structure created a strong sense of collective identity and solidarity, but it also created clear boundaries between different kinship groups. The canon, the traditional code of customary law that governed many aspects of life in the Albanian highlands, contained detailed provisions regarding marriage. While marriage between close relatives was forbidden, there was a strong preference for marriage within the clan or tribe. This practice of endogamy, or marriage within a specific social group, had a significant impact on the genetic makeup of the population. By limiting the flow of genes between different clans and tribes, endogamy helped to preserve the genetic distinctiveness of these groups. Over many generations, this led to the development of a patchwork genetic landscape in northern Albania, with each clan and valley having its own unique genetic signature. From a population genetics perspective, endogamy can have several effects on the gene pool. It can lead to an increase in homozygosity, which is the inheritance of two identical copies of a gene from both parents. It can also lead to a reduction in genetic diversity within a population, as well as an increase in the frequency of certain genetic traits and inherited disorders. While the long-term effects of endogamy on the health of the Albanian population are not fully understood, it is clear that this practice has played a significant role in shaping the unique genetic profile of the Albanian people. The isolation of the Albanian highlands, combined with the social and cultural barriers created by the tribal system, created a genetic incubator in which ancient Balkan lineages could be preserved. While other parts of Europe were experiencing large-scale population movements and genetic admixture, the Albanian highlanders were able to maintain a high degree of genetic continuity with their ancient ancestors. The decline of the traditional tribal system in the 20th century and the increased mobility of the Albanian population have led to a breakdown of these traditional marriage patterns. As a result, the genetic landscape of Albania is becoming more homogeneous. However, the legacy of centuries of endogamy is still visible in the genetic makeup of the Albanian people, particularly in the north of the country. The story of endogamy and social structure in Albania is a fascinating example of how cultural practices can have a profound and lasting impact on the genetic makeup of a population. It is a story that highlights the complex interplay of genetics, culture, and geography in shaping the human story. The unique genetic heritage of the Albanian people is not just a product of ancient migrations and historical events. It is also a product of the social and cultural choices that their ancestors made over many centuries. To fully comprehend the unique genetic tapestry of the Albanian people, it is essential to delve into the distinct stories told by their maternal and paternal lineages. The study of mitochondrial DNA, mtDNA, which is inherited exclusively from mother to child, provides a powerful tool for tracing the maternal lines of descent back through countless generations. Analysis of mtDNA haplogroups in the Albanian population has revealed a rich and ancient maternal heritage, with deep roots in the Paleolithic and Neolithic history of Europe. The overall picture that emerges from mtDNA studies is one of significant antiquity and continuity, further underscoring the role of the Balkans as a long-standing refugium and a cradle of European genetic diversity. One of the most striking features of the Albanian mitochondrial DNA landscape is the high frequency of haplogroup H, the most common mtDNA haplogroup in Europe. This haplogroup is believed to have originated in the Near East and spread across Europe after the last glacial maximum. The prevalence of haplogroup H in Albania is consistent with the general European pattern, but the specific subclades, or branches, of haplogroup H found in the Albanian population often have a distinctly Balkan distribution, suggesting a long history of in situ evolution. This points to the idea that the ancestors of the Albanians were part of the major post-glacial re-expansion of populations from southern European refugia. Beyond haplogroup H, the Albanian mtDNA pool is characterized by a significant presence of other ancient European lineages, such as haplogroups U and K. Haplogroup U, in particular, is one of the oldest mtDNA haplogroups in Europe, with some of its subclades being directly linked to the pre-Neolithic hunter-gatherer populations of the continent. The relatively high frequency of certain subclades of haplogroup U in the Albanian population provides strong evidence for a direct maternal link to the Paleolithic and Mesolithic inhabitants of the Balkans. This ancient maternal heritage has been preserved to a remarkable degree in the Albanian gene pool, likely due to the same factors of geographic isolation and endogamy that have shaped their overall genetic makeup. The presence of Neolithic mtDNA lineages, such as haplogroups J and T, in the Albanian population tells the story of the arrival of agriculture in the Balkans. These haplogroups, which are thought to have originated in the Near East, were carried to Europe by the first farmers who migrated from Anatolia. The fact that these Neolithic lineages are found alongside the more ancient hunter-gatherer lineages in the Albanian mtDNA pool is a clear indication of the admixture that took place between the indigenous populations and the newcomers. However, the proportion of these Neolithic maternal lineages in the Albanian population appears to be somewhat lower than in some other parts of Europe, which may suggest that the arrival of agriculture in the mountainous regions of Albania was a more gradual process, with a greater degree of cultural diffusion rather than wholesale population replacement. What is particularly noteworthy about the Albanian mtDNA landscape is not just the presence of these ancient haplogroups, but also the relative absence of more recent maternal lineages from other parts of Eurasia. For example, the contribution of Slavic maternal lineages to the Albanian gene pool appears to be quite limited, which is consistent with the historical and linguistic evidence for the Albanian refugium during the Slavic migrations. Similarly, there is little evidence of a significant maternal contribution from the Ottoman Turks or other populations from the Near East. This suggests that while there was undoubtedly cultural and social interaction during the Ottoman period, it did not translate into a large-scale influx of new maternal lineages into the Albanian population. In essence, the story told by the mitochondrial DNA of the Albanian people is one of remarkable resilience and continuity. It is a story of a maternal gene pool that has been shaped by the major demographic events of European prehistory from the arrival of the first modern humans to the spread of agriculture, but has also been able to maintain a strong and direct link to the ancient inhabitants of the Balkans. The maternal lineages of the Albanian people are a testament to the enduring legacy of the women who have lived in this rugged and beautiful land for millennia, passing down their genetic heritage from one generation to the next. Just as mitochondrial DNA illuminates the maternal history of a population, the study of the Y chromosome, which is passed down from father to son, provides a powerful lens through which to view the paternal lineages of the Albanian people. The analysis of Y chromosome haplogroups in the Albanian population has revealed a paternal genetic landscape that is both distinctly European and uniquely Balkan. It is a landscape characterized by a high frequency of certain haplogroups that are thought to have deep roots in the region, as well as by a relative lack of genetic input from more recent migrations. The overall picture is one of a paternal gene pool that has been shaped by the same forces of antiquity, isolation, and continuity that are evident in the maternal lineages. One of the most prominent features of the Albanian paternal gene pool is the high frequency of haplogroup EV13. This haplogroup is a subclade of the broader E1b1b haplogroup, which is thought to have originated in Northeast Africa and spread to the Near East and Europe in prehistoric times. The EV13 subclade, however, is believed to have originated in the Balkans during the Neolithic or Bronze Age. It is now found at its highest frequencies in the Albanian population, particularly among Kosovar Albanians, where it can reach levels of over 40%. The high prevalence and diversity of EV13 in the Albanian population strongly suggests that it has a long history in the region, and that the ancestors of the Albanians may have played a key role in its dispersal throughout the Balkans and beyond. The presence of EV13 is often linked to the ancient Paleo-Balkan peoples, including the Illyrians, and its high frequency in the Albanian population is considered to be one of the strongest pieces of genetic evidence supporting the theory of a direct ancestral link between modern Albanians and the ancient Illyrians. Another significant Y chromosome haplogroup in the Albanian population is R1b. This haplogroup is the most common paternal lineage in Western Europe, and its presence in the Balkans is often associated with the arrival of Indo-European speakers from the Pontic-Caspian steppe during the Bronze Age. The specific subclades of R1b found in the Albanian population, however, often have a distinctly Balkan distribution, suggesting a long period of in situ evolution following the initial Indo-European migrations. The co-occurrence of the native Balkan haplogroup EV13 with the Indo-European haplogroup R1b in the Albanian gene pool is a clear reflection of the genetic fusion that took place in the region during the Bronze and Iron Ages, a fusion that ultimately gave rise to the Illyrian peoples. The Albanian paternal gene pool is also characterized by the presence of haplogroup J2, which is associated with the spread of agriculture from the Near East during the Neolithic period. The frequency of J2 in the Albanian population is lower than that of EV13 and R1b, but it is still a significant component of the paternal landscape. This suggests that the arrival of Neolithic farmers in the Balkans made a lasting contribution to the paternal gene pool of the region, although this contribution may have been less pronounced than in other parts of Europe. What is particularly striking about the Albanian Y chromosome landscape is the relatively low frequency of haplogroups that are associated with more recent migrations into the Balkans. For example, haplogroup I2A, which is the most common paternal lineage among the South Slavic peoples, is found at significantly lower frequencies in the Albanian population. This provides strong genetic support for the Albanian refugium hypothesis, suggesting that the paternal gene pool of the Albanians was largely unaffected by the Slavic migrations of the early medieval period. Similarly, there is little evidence of a significant paternal contribution from the Ottoman Turks or other groups from the Near East. In conclusion, the paternal ancestry of the Albanian people, as revealed by the study of Y chromosome haplogroups, is a story of deep Balkan roots and remarkable continuity. It is a story dominated by ancient lineages that are thought to have been present in the region since the Neolithic and Bronze Ages. The unique combination and high frequency of these paternal haplogroups, coupled with the relative absence of more recent genetic input, is what makes the Albanian paternal gene pool so distinctive and so important for understanding the complex demographic history of the Balkans. In the 21st century, the advent of high-throughput DNA sequencing technologies has revolutionized the field of population genetics, allowing for an unprecedented level of detail in the study of human genetic variation. Modern genetic studies, which analyze hundreds of thousands or even millions of genetic markers across the entire genome, have provided powerful new insights into the unique genetic makeup of the Albanian people and their place within the broader context of European genetic diversity. These genome-wide studies have largely confirmed and refined the picture that had emerged from earlier studies of mitochondrial DNA and the Y chromosome, painting a portrait of the Albanian people as a population with a deep and continuous genetic history in the Balkans. One of the most consistent findings of modern genetic studies is the relative genetic homogeneity of the Albanian population, despite the long-standing cultural and linguistic divide between the Gegs and the Tosks. While subtle genetic differences between the north and the south can still be detected, the overall genetic landscape of Albania is one of remarkable uniformity. This suggests that the Geg-Tosk divide, while culturally significant, has not been a major barrier to gene flow in the more recent past. The increased mobility of the Albanian population in the 20th and 21st centuries has likely contributed to this process of genetic homogenization. Another key finding of genome-wide studies is the confirmation of the genetic distinctiveness of the Albanian people in comparison to their neighbors. When the genetic data of different European populations are plotted on a principal component analysis (PCA) chart, the Albanian population typically forms a distinct cluster, separate from the Slavic-speaking peoples of the Balkans and from the Greek and Italian populations. This genetic distinctiveness is a reflection of the unique demographic history of the Albanian people, a history that has been characterized by a high degree of isolation and a limited amount of admixture with neighboring groups. Modern genetic studies have also shed new light on the ancient ancestral components that make up the Albanian gene pool. These studies have confirmed that the Albanian DNA is a composite of three main ancestral streams: the indigenous Mesolithic hunter-gatherers of Europe, the Neolithic farmers who migrated from Anatolia, and the Bronze Age pastoralists who arrived from the Pontic-Caspian steppe. What is particularly interesting about the Albanian gene pool is the relative proportions of these three ancestral components. Compared to many other European populations, Albanians appear to have a higher proportion of Mesolithic hunter-gatherer ancestry and a lower proportion of steppe ancestry. This unique ancestral signature is likely a result of the geographic isolation of the Albanian highlands, which may have allowed the indigenous hunter-gatherer populations to survive and to contribute more significantly to the gene pool of the later inhabitants of the region. Furthermore, the study of ancient DNA extracted from archaeological remains in the Balkans is beginning to provide direct evidence for the genetic continuity between ancient Balkan populations and modern Albanians. While the field of ancient DNA is still in its early stages, the initial results are promising, and they seem to support the hypothesis of a direct ancestral link between the ancient Illyrians and the modern Albanian people. As more ancient genomes from the region are sequenced, it is likely that we will gain an even clearer understanding of the deep genetic history of the Albanian people. In conclusion, modern genetic studies have provided a wealth of new data that has greatly enhanced our understanding of why the Albanian DNA is so unique. These studies have confirmed the ancient roots of the Albanian people in the Balkans, their remarkable genetic continuity over millennia, and their distinctiveness in comparison to their neighbors. The Albanian people, with their unique language and their equally unique genetic heritage, represent a precious link to the ancient past of Europe. Their DNA is a living archive, a testament to the long and often arduous journey of their ancestors, a journey that has been shaped by the interplay of geography, culture, and the timeless forces of human migration and adaptation. In conclusion, Albanian DNA tells a powerful story of ancient European heritage, preserved through millennia of isolation. This narrative is a complex puzzle, and new discoveries are always emerging. What are your thoughts on this unique genetic history? Please share your comments below for improvement and discussion.